Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Thursday Night Live. It's so good to have you with us. Tonight, I want to introduce you to a new friend of mine, Lindsay Dixon. Welcome, Lindsay. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Hello, Lindsay. Thank you for having me. I'm glad you spelled your name correctly.
Oh, yes. Okay, so we're going there. All right, so let's do this. So, have you ever had, during the day when you've offered someone your credit card, have they ever said to you, "Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am, you can't use your husband's"?
No, but I never lend out my credit card. So
Okay. You see, I have tried to use my credit card, of course, many times, and every once in a while I get, "I'm sorry, sir, can't use your wife's card." And I say, "Thank you very much," and I hand it forward. So anyhow, it's great to have someone else, like you said, name spelt right. That's absolutely awesome. The cool thing about this that a lot of people don't know is that my producer, which is probably saying it a little bit strongly, the person who sets up the StreamYard for me, her name is Lindsay as well.
Ah, yes, that's great.
Spelt the same. So anyhow, enough of all of that. It's great to have you here. Lindsay, as we talk, I just enjoy having these conversations with people. As I said in my intro video, I think we can all agree that COVID has kind of knocked us around a little bit, a little more than normal. And so we're just looking to have a conversation, just hearing what it's been like for you, some ups and downs, some wins, maybe there's some losses, where faith kind of intersects with all that stuff. And yeah, just looking forward to this. So thanks for being willing to come on. So maybe just tell us a little bit about Lindsay Dixon.
Yeah, so some of you may not know me or have seen me much because we actually started attending Saanich Baptist just a few months before, maybe about 6 months before COVID-19. And I have 2 little boys. And so I was probably often in and out of the nursery and that kind of thing with them. So so I'm a mother. I have two little boys. I'm married to a very big, tall Brazilian man who's much louder and taller than I am. So most people know Fernando, and I'm just kind of the one who's beside him. So so we're happy to be here. We live in Saanich, and I'm not sure what else to say. I am a pharmacist as well, and so I work in healthcare, and that's been an interesting thing during COVID-19. But primarily, I mean, I've really been called to be a mother during this time as well, right? So interesting times. Mm-hmm.
Did you call Fernando the big, tall Brazilian guy? Is that kind of how you described him?
Well, I think I did just now. That's how most people will know who I am, is they say,
"Oh, there you go.
That is wife." Okay. And that's okay. I'm fine with that.
Totally. Oh, that's great. Yeah. So you mentioned you have a family, and I guess, what has this year been like for you and your family?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think just like it has been for everyone, it's been a year of many changes and not being able to plan ahead. I'm a planner by nature, so I love to plan everything. And not being able to plan even sometimes a day or two ahead was, especially initially, very, very challenging. And even now, we kind of would like to be able to plan a spring break vacation or summer vacation. What are we going to do in the summer? And not being able to do that has been challenging. I also learned this year that I'm not good at homeschooling. My youngest son is in preschool still, but my other son was in grade 1 last spring when they went to online school. And I know that online school like that is not what homeschool is. I learned that as well. I am not called to either. I failed miserably at that, and I have much appreciation for teachers, even more so than before. So that was a challenging time. But I mean, it's been, I don't know, like everyone has kind of been through the same thing, but everyone has a different story or a different way that it's played out for them. And, there's a lot that we're thankful for, that we're safe. And, my husband has employment, and, we've had health, and that's great. And And even with all of that, there's still been challenges just emotionally at times. You just kind of feel, just this unknown uncertainty of when it's going to end, or just different things will creep up and kind of catch you by surprise. And it makes me think like, wow, like we have so much stability, and still I sometimes feel kind of like this is really difficult, right? So it does make you kind of aware and maybe even more empathetic to those who have been through a much more difficult time even during this pandemic. Mm-hmm.
And I'm guessing as I listen to you say that, you know a lot more about this pandemic than I do. Being a pharmacist, you have a much greater understanding, and so I can imagine that. I would think that would bring along with it a little extra, maybe fear. Is that?
Yeah, I don't think it brought fear, but it did definitely bring concern. Okay. Early on in the pandemic, I was thinking a lot about the stock market crash of 2008, because when that happened, because I knew immediately that people were going to react to what was happening in a lot of different ways. And there was a lot of stress, and people were not eating properly, they were not exercising properly. And after the crash of 2008, the types of prescriptions we started to see, and during that, were a lot of anxiety medications, a lot of sleep medications, antidepressants, medications for stomach issues. And I knew that was going to happen again. And it's really difficult when you see people who, they feel like their lives are kind of crashing down. And thankfully, we do have medication that can help. But I knew that was coming, and that is happening. And I really don't think that maybe we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg as far as that goes. I think that once COVID-19 is over, we're still going to see the effects of COVID-19 for years to come. And as a pharmacist, that does concern me when you think about chronic illness and just different things that this pandemic has exposed, but also maybe made some of us more vulnerable to.
Right. Mm-hmm. So, some of the concerns, some of the ripple effects of this. How have you been proactive? Maybe what have you maybe personally and or with your kids and your husband? Like, what are some things that you have done to build into maybe some rhythms to help with these kinds of experiences?
Yeah, so as a family, we really prioritized family time. Well, we had to. We were all stuck together for so it was like either we love each other or, mutiny. So, it was easy in the beginning to prioritize being outside and exercise. We did a lot of bike rides, and we're getting back to that now that the weather is better. We did gardening and that kind of thing. We were able to reach out to our neighbors in kind of an interesting new way. So early on in the pandemic, we have a large driveway. Like, we don't have a big house or anything, but our driveway is fairly large, and we were at home with the kids. And so we just parked our van across the end of our driveway and let the kids play. And then we put out a few to raise their families. But they were able to come over, and they were able to just kind of sit, and they would be distanced, but we would chat. And so that was really nice to be able to do that and to be able to have that kind of community. We never would have used our driveway that way had we not been stuck at home for so long. So that was kind of an interesting, I guess, a silver lining in some ways. And we still do that. Through that, I started to hear conversation that led me to understand a little bit more about how people really did not understand this virus, or even how it was transmitted or anything like that. And so I started a YouTube channel, and I started talking about the science behind the virus and how it's transmitted and that kind of thing. And I just did that as a way to try to promote good information, give some people some credible information about the pandemic, because I started to realize there was a lot of information circulating that was really not good and not scientific. So that was one way that I personally could step up and serve the community in that way.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you were talking about your some of the practices, when you said gardening, it almost like you said gardening. Like, do you like gardening or?
Well, gardening is kind of I'm very excited about gardening in the spring, and by August, it's like, oh, we forgot to water everything and all those plants that we bought. So it's something that I really like to do with the kids. I like to show them that things can grow, but I don't necessarily follow through. So I don't know. Like, maybe the kids will learn something from that. I don't know. But it is therapeutic, and there are actually scientific studies that show that people that garden there are good effects on mental health. So, I'll take those effects. Hopefully the dead flowers at the end of August don't take those effects away, but
yeah, Carla and I are pretty excited, motivated early in the spring as well. I did get a watering system installed because I figured I was going to need that. Yeah.
That's smart. We need that.
Yeah. So sorry, that was just fun. You talked about your cul-de-sac and creating a little bit of that environment. You also mentioned that one of the things you've tried to do a little bit, I believe, was when you see some people in a park or some older folks or whatever, you've kind of engaged with them, hey?
Yeah, and I just realized that there are a lot of people that don't have family. We actually have a neighbor who's kind of said to us, "You have each other, and I don't have anyone," and like they said that to us, kind of point blank. And when I was even in the fall, I was in the pharmacy giving flu shots, and I realized that for some of these people, they've not talked to hardly anyone or received any even care from hardly anyone during this whole pandemic. So, just making a point when we're out at a park or usually it's at a park or on a trail or something like that, to say hello. And I find that people are actually friendlier now than before. I think they're more willing to chat. I feel like there's maybe a little bit more empathy or something like that. And so we have been able to connect with some neighbors, that even some neighbors who say, "Oh, you're that family who parks their van across the driveway." And I'm like, "Yep, that's us," So that's good, because we kind of are known for this now, and maybe people will feel like they can stop by, when we're allowed again and that kind of thing. So yeah, and it's been nice, just the humanity behind that, right? Just being able to have a simple conversation, and not everyone is in the same boat, but we are all in COVID-19 together, right? Yeah. And so I think even just a hello and just being friendly, can make a big difference to someone in some way. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember, I guess it was a year ago, right? 54, 55, 56 weeks ago when this first hit, and you'd be walking down a trail, and people, we were all just a little afraid. We weren't sure, like, should we say something? We don't want to, I don't know, spread anything. And there was caution there. But I think that's a wonderful thing, what you're doing. We could all use just a little more goodness, a little more hospitality, more generosity of spirit with one another. I think that would be a wonderful holdover from COVID, if you like, as we kind of move forward.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it is a bit contagious too. After we had done this for a few months, our neighbor across the street, she all of a sudden had a couple chairs out on her lawn. And she's like, "I just put some chairs up. You can come over for tea." And they're distanced. And I have seen that in different places. And so I think that I really do hope as well that that's something that does stay, just recognizing that, it does us no service to just be all locked up in our house and so busy with all of our own routines, right? Yeah. There is value to just being at home and being there without having to have an agenda necessarily.
Yeah. So one of the things that, you and I talked about, man, we had a phone call a long time ago, anyhow, was this idea that, you hear in the church, we often talk about, hey, one of the ways we demonstrate our love for God is as He changes us and we learn how to love others. And, you know, my wife, she loves to bake, absolutely loves to bake. And our neighbors appreciate it because she's baking cookies and she's got her little bags and she's running around. She sees a neighbor out and she goes and she shares cookies, and it's a great conversation starter. And she does a wonderful job with her cookies. I sensed from our first conversation that you were like, that's not really how I go about it, because maybe I shouldn't be sharing my baking, but I'll let you finish.
Yeah, I mean, so I will bake for you if you would like me to. And I have been known to make a banana loaf. I have also been known to take my mother's Christmas baking and give it to others and maybe take part credit for it. So yeah, I just I did find through this pandemic that making these videos, these scientific videos, was actually a way that I could serve my community with something I'm good at, something that comes fairly easily to me. And I thought, oh, this is such a relief. I finally found a way to serve people in a way that actually expresses a bit of who I am. And, you know, I think I said too, like, no one suffers because they don't have to eat my bacon. You only suffer if you watch the video. And I mean, I would never have thought of serving my community in this way,
Right.
like ever, because that's my work, right? Like, so that has been a blessing in that I've found that, oh, well, I'm interested in this, and I do have an ability to communicate this kind of information in a way that people can understand. And so I can do that. And maybe I don't have to feel guilty about, you know, not signing up to make a meal for someone every week because it's so painful. I mean, I will make soup for you. I really will. But, you know, it's not my forte. Like, my neighbor makes my kids cookies sometimes. And it's like you know, these little droplets from heaven. And then I make the cookies, and it's like even the kids like, oh, you know. So, you know, we all have our strengths, and we all have different ways, different gifts that we can serve people. And so just recognizing that we all have different gifts. I guess that's how I should summarize that.
And that's probably what I should have said. I had a little bit of fun at your expense, but your point, to me is wonderful. Like, you have some unique gifts, you have some abilities. So let's transition a little bit into sort of your professional world. You're a pharmacist. You created a YouTube channel. You mentioned to me about a volunteer group of scientists and healthcare professionals you've been working with. Yeah, maybe just tell us a little bit about what that's been like. Because if I remember right, when I first contacted you, you were just getting ready to go back to work, possibly, or yeah.
Yeah, so I was getting ready to go right back into community pharmacy when the pandemic hit, and I could not do that because someone had to be home taking care of my children, and my husband could not leave his job. So I was at home, and, you know, through talking to different neighbors and seeing all of what was going on and the kind of misinformation that was on social media, that's why I started the channel. The channel is called Friendly Pharmacy 5.
Okay.
So so I started that. I'm just trying to remember your question. So I started that, and the channel just provides information about COVID-19. I'm going to keep the channel going because through this, I now have a sponsor, and this is now turned into an actual employable thing, which I never intended it to be, but it is now, and I enjoy it. And so I'm just kind of running with it. The other thing that happened is I ended up connecting with a lot of different healthcare professionals and scientists from across Canada and volunteering with a group called COVID-19 Resources Canada. And so we're all volunteers, and we have a lot of different resources on a website where people can go and find credible information about COVID-19. But we also do, and what I think is one of the greatest things that this group does is they do Zoom calls. It used to be nightly, now it's 3 times a week, for anyone in Canada to just, you have to sign up ahead of time now because there's been so much demand. You sign up and you just get onto a Zoom call. It's 3 nights a week, I think at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you can speak with a panel of experts. I'm sometimes one of them, although it's hard because it's 5 p.m., which is dinner time, Pacific Standard Time. So I'm not there very much. And people ask questions about the vaccines right now. So we're trying to just give people credible information about the vaccines. It's a really non-judgmental environment. And, you know, that's another way of like serving the community,
Absolutely.
right? And it's been really neat because, I mean, just to be part of something like that and to be a positive voice in a place where there's a lot of fear and there's a lot of unknown. And I totally understand people having questions and concerns and even fear, and there needs to be a place to ask these questions. And I don't know if our government has necessarily provided us with enough information. So that's something that's been rewarding, is just to be part of that. And again, to be able to serve in a capacity that I never, ever would have thought of serving before. So, yeah.
Yeah, to be able to recognize that, our careers are an opportunity to serve God, regardless of whether we're in a pandemic or not. I believe that. I think God holds up our careers very highly. They're not something just I just got to go to work. Well, no, you actually get to go and interact with people and share love and goodness and great, all of these great community sort of feels and interactions. It's just an amazing opportunity. But for sure, in this one, you have been placed in a very unique position. So that is fantastic. What are some of the feedback you've been getting from people as you've been out there, I guess, on your channel, on social media? How have people been responding to what you've been putting out there?
Yeah, so I'm at the point now where I do get a lot of comments on my videos, and I do get a fair amount of feedback. Most of it has been quite polite because I'm quite introverted. This was a big deal for me to do this. It's still kind of funny that I have a YouTube channel, but anyways, but mostly people have been very supportive. One thing that has struck me, and even before I went back, even before the pandemic, I was thinking about getting into a different area of pharmacy, along the lines of maybe preventative medicine or just treatment of chronic illness or prevention of chronic illness. One of the things that has really bothered me as I get these comments and because I do have people from all over the world now commenting, saying like that they don't have access to healthcare, and asking me questions, often from the United States or the UK are the main ones, and even from Canada. And then I say because I cannot give medical advice online. And so I respond in the way I could help the most, but I often have to say, you need to talk to a medical professional. And then they'll say, I don't have access. There's no one I can talk to here, or, and I've spoken with someone in the UK. There's a channel that I've been on a couple of times, and I asked them, I said, what's going on? And it's very difficult, even in the UK, often to access a healthcare professional. And even here, when I was, giving flu shots a few months ago, so I spoke to a lady, and she was telling me about some issues that she had. And I said, you can go online and you can get a virtual appointment. And she's like, what is that? Because she doesn't have a GP, and she doesn't, it's hard for some people to go online and do this. Some of us wouldn't think twice about just kind of doing something like that. So it just kind of struck me that there's a real need there for people to have some kind of resource to educate them about their health. And hopefully I can fill a very tiny, tiny gap there. But that's really concerning when you are in a pandemic and you don't have access or feel you have support to make some, fairly serious decisions. And I know that this is an issue worldwide, right? But being someone asking me that and then saying, I don't have access, it's like, wow,
Yeah. So we could go a long ways into sort of that professional side of your life. And as I shared with you the other day, I was kind of curious. I guess these conversations, I'm more curious a little bit about, well, you are Lindsay Dixon first and foremost, who has a number of hats that she wears, you know. And so when you hear that, how does that affect you personally? Like that's got, like, how do you not sort of take that weight? You're a professional. How do you not take that weight into your home, if you like, or late at night, and not allow it to maybe almost be a little bit soul crushing?
Yeah. I mean, I think that one thing that's really struck me about this pandemic, and this is really not been something totally new to me, but just the brokenness of the world, and just how much hurt there is. And during the pandemic, just kind of seeing that amplified in a lot of different ways. For myself, I honestly, I don't feel that pressure, because I actually feel that through this channel and maybe different types of work that I now see that maybe I can become involved in, maybe I can somehow make a dent. I mean, when I started this channel, I thought, even if just one person could be safer or feel more comfortable or feel just more educated, one person, then that would be worth it. This is a pandemic, right? Anything that we could do would be worth it, right? So I know that I can't solve everyone's health issue, or I know I can't solve these huge issues, but maybe I could help one person in some way, and that would be worth it, right? So that's kind of how I look at it. And I also understand the sovereignty of God, and I understand that I'm not God, and I am not the answer to anyone's problem, but I can be a conduit of maybe something somewhat good, you know, and use whatever skills or abilities I have in some way to be some kind of light. I don't know, you know, I'm just kind of trying to do the work that I've been given. But yeah, you know, the brokenness and the just seeing people struggle and trying to interpret all of this health information and like vaccine information, everything that's out there. I understand that it's scary. It's like you're trying to learn a new language when the world is on fire, right?
Right.
So yeah, it's yeah.
So I've been misquoted. Well, Lindsay said this, and sometimes I hear what people have said that I've said, and I have no ability to go and try to correct everyone. That's not what I said. And misinformation, some of the distrust that's been out there for medical professionals. How do you handle that?
Yeah, and I think that, like, I have been very immersed in COVID-19. People who haven't seen me on social media won't know, but people who have probably think I'm crazy. Near the beginning of the pandemic, we had some people over kind of on our deck, and we're all distanced and, you know, everything like that. And they actually said, well, I spoke to someone and they were surprised that we actually could come to your house, you know, and talk to you. And I think at that time, like, there weren't restrictions on, you could have your safe 6 bubble, right?
Yep.
And and so that was kind of interesting. I thought, because you always think, what are people thinking? They probably think I'm crazy, you know? And of course, people will misunderstand kind of what you're doing sometimes. And for me, it was just that I'm informed, so I'm not fearful, you know, because I understand, so I can have you at my house, and like, I totally get it, and it's fine. But it is hard, because you know that the amount of misinformation that is out there and the amount of resistance that is out there is so incredibly massive, and you cannot win against it at this point. You can't. Yeah. And so you're kind of in a battle where you're just putting out fires. I mean, in some small way, you know, I had someone who was going to come and help me out with some work. And this person said to me, I don't think that I'm the right person to help you. And I kind of was like, oh, well, I think you're great. Like, why not? And well, I don't want to get the vaccine. I was like, I don't care. Like that does not concern me. Like, do not, that has nothing to do with this. And I would never pressure anyone. Like the work I'm doing is not, I don't know, it does not dictate, I guess, who I am it's not judgmental at all. Right. So I think, there'll always be judgment and misunderstanding, and I can't do anything about that. Right. It is tough because a person knows when I guess, yeah, some people have their minds made up about a certain thing and there's just no point going any further. But, I have found, and I did find with this one particular story that I'm telling you about this person, that if you're just patient and kind and show love, people do come around eventually. And rather than kind of lash out, rather than try to like preach your message about, whatever it is, vaccines or anything like that, you just love people and just kind of let them be. Eventually they come around. And yeah. So I'm not sure what I'm saying with all of that, but hopefully some of it makes sense. There's so much misinformation out there, and yeah, I'm sure people have misunderstood what I'm doing and misunderstood what all is going on. But I think we do have a role to be humble and to be kind and loving, even when people aren't necessarily acting in a way that we think they deserve it. Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. You basically ran through a third of the fruit of the Spirit. Patient, loving, kind. Yeah, we could, as I think we touched on this earlier, we could certainly use more of that in our human interactions these days. Near the end, in a few minutes, I want to give people an opportunity to find you, your social media stuff, so that they can go and gain some education and some understanding on some things. So I'll ask for that in just a minute. But so you've touched on a few times, you have a faith. You are trying not to take over God's job. Can you explain any more? Is there any more you want to say about how your faith just sort of interacts with your role as a mom, a wife, a pharmacist, just a neighbor?
Yeah, well, in some ways the pandemic has changed a lot, and in some ways it hasn't changed much, right? So I'm still a mom and a wife, and I still love the Lord. And this experience has only strengthened all of that. I think it certainly tested it, especially in the beginning, with the family and, definitely tested some areas. Yep. I'm not an example of all those qualities that you just mentioned. I'm not really sure how to answer that. I think we just keep going, and we just keep doing whatever our hands find to do, and of course it's really difficult at times because we're all human and we all have emotions and we are all processing this. It is, and to even wonder, what is this world going to look like for our children, but I really do just have faith that God is sovereign. And so I don't know, if God's sovereign, then he's sovereign, and so everything else is kind of, it's one day at a time.
Yeah. I think COVID has taught us that, hey, to not get too far out ahead of ourselves, to be able to trust him day in and day out, to know that he has promised us our daily needs. That's challenging. And we are we as a people, as individuals, we sometimes are the answer to some people's prayers. You know, we are kind of called to love someone, to maybe meet a need in a certain way, to maybe help in other ways. And we are called to be those who bring some of the kingdom to the folks around us, through God, through his love, through his mercy, his grace. So we're you have different social medias. Like, I've seen you on Facebook. You said you have a YouTube channel. What's the YouTube channel called again?
Yes, my channel is called Friendly Pharmacy 5. So like the number 5. Yeah, but you can find me. Well, if you just search my name, Lindsay Dixon, now I pop up in a lot of different places. So I mean, I have done some content on like the vaccines, and I mean, there's a lot there. So if it can be of help to anyone, then that's great. That's what it's there for, right?
There was some cartoon I saw today about geese. Was it geese and the vaccine and what? I can't remember what you said.
Yeah, and that was not mine. I actually stole that from someone else's account, but it was a comparison between the risk with the AstraZeneca vaccine of a blood clot versus being attacked by a Canadian goose, which is
that's what it was.
1 in 10,000, which I think we should take seriously, because I've heard that those geese are vicious. So
I'm a golfer, and they love golf courses, and honestly, they freak me out.
Yeah, they are a bit territorial, I think.
Yeah, I really think they are. Okay, so Friendly Pharmacy 5.
Yes.
And on Facebook, Lindsay Dixon.
Yeah, I'm on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. And, you know, if anyone does have any questions or anything, like, also feel free to contact me. You can direct message me. I try to get back to people within, 2 to 3 days. Please feel free. I'm really not judgmental. I do have some knowledge, and if I don't have the knowledge, I can probably point you to someone or a resource that does. So
yeah. Well, Lindsay, love what you're doing. Thank you so much for spending some time with us tonight. I know this will be helpful for those of you who have joined in. Just want to remind you that we have a number of episodes. I can't remember if this is 9 or 10, and you can find the other episodes on my YouTube channel if you'd like. They're there, or you can go to the Saneches YouTube or Facebook channels as well and catch up on some of the previous episodes. Lindsay, thank you. To everybody, thanks for joining us. Have a great evening.
Thanks, Lindsay. Take care.